I'll just little one play.
They were
I'll look the microphone. She's taking me 1 week.
what she said.
Good afternoon, Contra College.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, comments, to this wonderful strategic planning event. I think we have you for about the next 2 hours, and we hope to really engage you in this strategic planning conversation. So you are going to hear a considerable amount of information from our senior dean, Greg Stoup, who's going to walk you through the strategic planning process and obtain a considerable amount of feedback from you. So hopefully at your seats, everyone has essentially a packet before you. Is that right? If you don't have a packet, raise your hand. We'll make sure a packet comes your way. And perfect. Okay, we need one more packet right here. Right here. Okay. We'll get about 4 more packets out. 5. Wonderful. So a reminder that today's focus is on the district-wide strategic plan. It's very, very important for us to ensure that each college provides the level of input that's necessary to provide this overarching plan that we intend to utilize over the next 5 years as we move forward the vision and mission of the Contra Costa Community College District. So extremely excited to have you all here to provide your input. Your college strategic planning process follows the district strategic planning process. And as we conclude our work this year, this academic year, essentially with the district-wide strategic plan, generally the colleges then get in gear in the development of the college strategic plan. So your input is very, very important to ensure that our district-wide strategic plan provides the structure to ensure that you have the support necessary from a district perspective to carry on the incredible work of the college in serving our students. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Greg, who will walk us through the rest of the afternoon.
All right. We good? Good. Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Can I ask who in the room attended one of the public dialogues? Anyone? I know a few of you have, so a small percentage. And have any of you filled out the online survey that was circulated? It did. Okay, so a lot of this will be new for most of you, so good. It won't be double work or parallel work. There are a couple of us in the room who might be feeling a little punchy. We had a marathon session with the board last night. I'm going to try to make this painless and to the point. But yeah, so as Mojdeh mentioned, this is the time of year, the time of the decade, it happens once every 5 years, we cycle up and do a planning process for the district-wide strategic plan. So to start off, thank you for coming, because the task of writing, our writer is here for the plan, Kelly Ronja, helping us write this plan. It can't be done if we don't get the feedback from you. So thank you for taking the time and coming to an event with the word strategic planning in it. I know it just sounds like bedtime. So thank you. It's important for us. So this is what I made. This is the comment I made to the public when they came in the 2 public dialogues we had. I wanted to let them know the same sentiment, but our colleges have so many touch points with the community, students, residents, employers, K-12, all these people. We have obligations to all of them. It's our opportunity to dialogue with you about the nature of those relationships. So now we're talking to our internal employee, faculty, staff, and getting your perspective. We're going to try to weed in all different perspectives and find a cohesive whole behind it. We're starting to target is to get on the floor. I think we might even be able to beat that if we're all moving along here. We have a 3 breakout session model. So this is less me up here and actually more you at your tables conversing about 3 different areas related to strategic planning. Institutional values. What is it that we value? What is our vision? What do we dream to be in 5 years from now? And then a conversation about our goals. And our state chancellor's office has made this conversation very interesting in just the last couple of weeks. So that one will be an engaging conversation, I suspect. So just some backdrop, and I think Mojdeh kind of hit on this. This is a picture of the cover of our old strategic plan. It is sunsetting. Just to make sure we get the languaging right, this is not a district office plan. It is the district-wide plan. It encompasses all of us, all three colleges, both campuses, and the district office. So it's the whole entity covering a service area that is roughly coterminous with the entire county. And in the breakout handouts you have, I'll use the term organization or institution. I'm referring to the whole pot, if you see those words. The whole district-wide organization. So yes, once again, sunsetting, it's a 5-year planning cycle. Our current plan sunsets in 2019. The new one will take off in 2020 and take us to 2025. We have done our due diligence and a best practice where we close out your old plan and do an assessment of how that plan worked, how was the process of developing the plan, and we try to make modifications in this process to accommodate what we heard. We did that with the Board of Trustees and the District Governance Council. I'll say a little bit more about them in a second. And listening sessions. So in fact, the calendar year for the plan runs into next year. But this year has been devoted to listening. Next year is devoted to writing. So you're in fact the last one we have on cue here. So we'll have the final word. Okay, so shepherding the process, we do have the Board of Trustees kind of overseeing this. We report to them regularly with our findings, have had more conversations with them in this planning cycle than we did previously, and we have a lot of touch points and check-ins with them. And I must update that graphic with our new trustees on there. DGC is your participatory governance model at the district level. And within their purview or their set of priorities, we have participate in developing and promoting district-wide goals, priorities, and long-term planning. So this fits within their domain. So just like the Board of Trustees, we report to District Governance Council on progress. They advise us, tell us if we're going in the right direction, and if we should need to make some course corrections. They're our guiding compass there. And then just to make sure we stay on task, we have a Chancellor's Cabinet that makes sure that we're actually following what DGC is asking us to do, what the trustees are asking us to do, and that we hit all our targets. That's the kind of oversight bodies and work there. The district plan complements the individual college plans. So as Mojdeh said, this is to be a roomy vehicle here, that each of the three columns can be felt to express their unique nature, but also find a cohesive home in the broader picture. So the colleges are the heart of the organization. We're going to call that out. Own unique culture and community. We're an umbrella in the district-wide plan, trying to get all three comfortably in there. And it speaks to what we have in common and where we collectively want to go. And that's what we're going to try to glean out tonight today in this conversation. Just to give you a visual, I may have shown this to some of you before. This shows our process that began. There we go. So in May of this year, 2018, we had a kickoff launch, and the months since then, subsequently, we've been doing a lot of work and meeting with different groups, and we're at the end point of the year here where we're doing all our forums. So we had October 11th for public forum and November 7th public forum, and now we're doing the three colleges, getting the feedback and doing the listening. So that part of the calendar is devoted to listening, and here's where we roll up our sleeves and actually do some writing and start creating drafts, getting reactions to the drafts. We'll have a draft circulated district-wide for you to look at and react to, and then tweak that to, we get to the point where we're at the final plan, actually by the end of May as a goal. And we do have actually this district strategic planning webpage, which has all the content that we've been using and sharing up to this point. It will contain feedback from the surveys that we have out there too, so there's a wealth of information on there, as well as this map and a dialogue that explains where we are in the process. Okay, everybody with me? Just give us a foundation. Okay, I'm ready to turn it over to you. I just want to set the stage. Big picture. Strategic planning. I keep using this quote because I just think it hits the point kind of nicely. Chess champion here says, tactics are about making decisions when you have to act. Strategy is about making decisions when you don't have to act. A bit of an exaggeration, but the point is, you don't often have a time to pause. You can often be in reactive mode, in crisis mode, and just making decisions because they have to be made now. It's a rare opportunity to be able to sit back and think. What are we really wanting to be here? What is our purpose? What is our mission? Where do we want to go? So it's a nice opportunity to come more frequently than once every 5 years, but let's take it when we can get it. And maybe think a little bit more big picture. Not a big deal. Okay, so in the first public dialogue, we spoke to 3 fundamental questions that basically boil down to who we are, why do we exist, and what do we dream to be? Values, purpose, and vision. In the second public dialogue, we took that information and went to the next step and asked these questions. How do we get there, our mission, and what would success look like? Directions and goals. Today, we're going to hit these 3, values, vision, and then the strategic directions. Really in the guise of these very fundamental questions. Okay, just one more check-in before we roll up our sleeves. We're all good? Okay, values. Let's say institutional values. Okay, we're trying to get at what we consider to be our fundamental core values as an institution. Values can be elusive. It's perhaps a little bit ironic, but the more fundamental you get, the more elusive a term can be. But you can name almost any value and probably get several different definitions for that. We had a couple of these kind of back and forth play out in some of the dialogues around some value definitions. In an environment of rapid change, values take on greater meaning. So this is the state of affairs today. Things change more rapidly. And when they do, your mission that's 5 years in duration is less useful to you than sometimes your values, what you retreat to in times of crisis or in times of rapid change. So it is important that we kind of have this conversation. And we often retreat to our values in moments. I stole my own thunder. Okay. Values are the standards. Let me give you a bit of a definition before we get into the exercise. So values are the standards that guide our collective conduct in a variety of settings. They represent the core principles within the organization's culture. While circumstances may change, ideally, values should not. Okay. Turning it over to you. At each table, each one of you has a packet. There are 3 breakout sessions, each in different text color. We're getting to the first one, breakout one, that's in green text, I believe. There's some instructions on there and 3 questions. And it's pretty straightforward. It's asking you what you consider to be a fundamentally important value for our district. And to provide something in the way of a phrase that gives that value some definition, just some verbiage. And then to indicate to us, for each question, we have these 3 questions. If you consider that value critical, very important, moderately important, there's a scale in there. And the purpose of that question is to get at what values are truly core and fundamental to us, as opposed to those that we generally just appreciate. In these conversations so far, I think we've gotten 58 different values. I count. So we're going to need some way to sort to the top what are the core values. That's what that question is trying to get at. The plan is for each of you to spend about 5 minutes individually with the sheet. And then when you're done, have a conversation with your table, and then they will quickly go around the room as a table to report out your sort of general discussions and just tell us what 2 or 3 of your values were. Are we good?
I want to stay married.
Okay, 5 minutes, one-on-one with your sheets, and then we'll do 5 minutes of table talk and then report out. All right, thank you.
Only the action, yeah, the good stuff.
But I don't wanna keep it.
So inclusion, leadership inclusion, cultivation of leadership. I think to me that's important. We don't grow people as we should.
It's funny I said that designing an institution to ensure people have students background researchers.
So like for your phone. Since you made love to my slide. So the other night, me and my friends were hanging out, and he's talking to each other, and he pulls his foot out and you're a professional. Why do you have to broken? You're the director of security and the health system. You should not have a broken home. You should walk away and be with him. I was finding it has great phones. No, it happened. Yep. What do you got, Coach? Success?
Oh, my last one.
Another minute, and then we'll report out. I feel good. How about
Don't be jealous.
Too much fun happening. That is not what these guys
So, in common
report out, who's gonna be our reporter? No.
I'm gonna take her now.
But you have a synopsis, I don't think you can take all of these.
If they're up
Can't just be his.
there. I can't do the report out and then leave and then.
Yeah, you can.
So we talked about student success in the all. So my notes on student success was an intentional and holistic approach to the whole student and their opportunities.
How about one more minute?
One more.
I'm gonna call it on decision making. Center decision making. I've got integrity, I've got leadership on this. I want to have cultivation and inclusion in leadership. I'm talking about integrity, focus on student success.
No, I don't understand.
Integrity, cultivation and inclusion in leadership.
So that would
All right. How about wrap it up and we start going around the room and have each table volunteer someone to report out what we discussed.
So,
We would just share 2 or 3 of the values that floated to the top.
developing and encouraging.
And we're going to capture that over here as we write down what you're saying. But please leave the handouts when you leave, because we're going to use that later as well. Can we start the report out? Is everybody comfortable? You want to volunteer? Table, go first? Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, Evan. Okay, so we have pretty.
Oh, and Moshe's coming around the mic so that we can get this clear recording.
We, you may be surprised to know, had some very similar thoughts amongst our winter table. The primary values we came up with were service, community, equity, and financial solvency. A little bit of an outlier there, but critically important as well.
Wonderful.
That's what I got for you.
Can you ask how do you give a definition of equity?
Really?
It can be elusive.
We did not come up with a uniform definition, but I think we could all quickly say what we put down. Mine's essentially assuring that all students receive the level of service and support they individually need to be successful.
Equitable access to the colleges, particularly for groups that are historically disenfranchised.
working with students, staff, and administrators through a lens of equity across the district.
We value consideration of all, inclusion of all in all of our work.
My value is actually stated as access, with definitely equity undertones, but it's our commitment to welcoming all and being ready to serve them as they are.
Ooh, nice verbiage there. Thank you. Okay. Who's our next victim?
He's the one that's talking.
That's not one of them. So we, let's see, we identified transparency, also equity, and supporting student success. Those were some of our
Okay. Thank you. Anyone want to add? Anything?
We're not going to do this now.
Okay. All right. Back in the corner here.
Apparently, like I said, my government name is Godfrey.
George Godfrey Mill.
But we talked about actually, Dr. Padilla kind of put us all to shame, so she had everything filled out.
I wonder why.
But we talked about equity and inclusiveness and social justice, especially around cultivating and encouraging an inclusive leadership pipeline with a social justice outlook. Sorry, is that me? No. We also talked about transformation and innovation, integrity, resilience, and courage.
Resilience and courage.
Yes. And finally, we talked about, we did talk about integrity, but basically a focus on student success, basically an intentional and holistic approach to the whole student and their outcome, as well as a collective student-centered decision-making process.
Nice. Thank you.
All right.
Some common elements, everybody's got their own.
Comments, everybody? Comments?
All right.
Good job.
Yeah. It's all good. All good.
My team has decided I'm talking. We had a number of them. We have a collective here from ours with different perspectives. We have student success and achievement. We said there's a commitment to our students meeting and achieving their goals. Equity in all that we do in our practices, employees, staff, faculty, and students. Innovation, making sure that we are innovating was one. We had continuous improvement. We also had, what's another one? Oh, yes, inclusivity. We also had integrity. We interpreted that to be trustworthy practices, policies, relationships. We had fiscal health, because if we're not here and healthy, we can't really serve our students. So that had to be a part. And we had one more. Success, and again, there's another version of success.
Just education and training. Education and training.
And you had, there was that phrase that you used that you said came from your college.
Well, the phrase that came from the graduate school at St. Mary's, it's enter to serve, leave to earn. I thought that has little value other than others that we have like nothing like love.
Thank you so much. Already, equity is definitely a theme and a few others. Okay, you in the corner.
We had transparency, which we sort of talked about as the open and above board dealings between administrators and instructors and the classified that they work with, instructors and their students. So that, we have to have it at all levels. We have to have this transparency of saying what you're going to do and then actually doing it. We talked about effective processes. We didn't have a real strong definition of that, but making what we do more effective so that we actually see an outcome. Not necessarily student outcomes, but we get to see something result from it. We had both student success and value of all students as slightly separate. the acknowledgement that different people have a different definition of what their own success is. And so sometimes we get told what student success is, but we rarely ask students what they think their success is. And that can be two different things. We also had value of all students. And we focused on the fact that we have a lot of first-time college students coming in, but we also have a lot of people who are attending college for the first time. Even if their parents attended, they are attending college for the first time. But we have seemed to have lost the value of the returning student who is returning after years after being out of college. The lifelong learners, we've lost those, and those who simply want the extra skills or knowledge that just because they want to take the class, we've lost valuing them, but I think they're still an important part of the campus. And did I miss anything on our list? That's what I had.
Thank you. I'll just tell you, in addition to the employee survey that we're circulating, we circulated a student survey. Got a tremendous response, and it spoke to a lot of what you just said. So it's going to be nice to report back to everyone what the students told us, what they want to get out of college, and where they feel like they might not be being seen. We have table 2 here. We have final word.
They actually took transparency from me.
Sorry.
You can use it.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, when you leave, please leave the papers. We're going to use that, and we actually scan them in and kind of do some formal counts on this stuff as we go. Okay, we're a third of the way through. I'm going to talk for maybe 2 minutes and then turn it back over to you as we transition from values to vision. Vision can be the fun one to discuss because you're allowed to express your hopes and dreams. So I think we all have a sense of what vision would be. Give it some legs with an actual statement, a definition of a statement. A vision statement is a future-oriented declaration of the organization's purpose and aspiration. The vision statement says, based on our purpose, this is what I want to become. And there are a few questions that kind of try to get that out of you and have you evoke what your perceptions are on that. Just to kind of drive home its importance. Are we familiar with the Aspen Prize for Excellence? Every 2 years, the Aspen Group looks at colleges across, community colleges across the state, and it identifies 2 or 3 as having achieved some high level of excellence. And then they do case studies of those colleges and try to find what the recurring themes are. One of them are a strong sense, is the quote from the report, a strong sense of community vision expressed throughout the organization by faculty, staff, administrators, trustees, and students. And we heard a little bit of that just now. Equity was clearly in everybody's mind, wasn't it? I'm sure that there was coherence among all these different constituent groups about where the college wanted to go. And they weren't empty statements like, well, we're all about student success. It was, we're going to have the best CTE programs in 5 years in the state. Right to the point. And there was clarity around that. So there is something that is embedded in vision, and if it's widely shared, it actually can be a force for change and for progress. So with that said, there's a second packet, which I believe is in kind of gold or yellow text around vision. Breakout 2, it should say. Similar instructions. I believe these are 3 open-ended questions. The first one is kind of the one that's traditional. What headline would you like to read in 5 years for our district? You can read the headline, read the first paragraph if you want. And then a couple of questions that kind of go a little bit further into that. But as in the last round, maybe 5 minutes, one-on-one with your sheet, and then break for a 5-minute talk, and then a report out. Good? If you have any questions about, you need further clarity on any of the questions, raise your hand, I'll come over, and hopefully we'll get that. Ready? Set? Go.
As a result of this, big, bright, because every year that fits with you now, like across the street from being from this house on this side of the town, because I was the other side.
So you did that?
I took a picture of you. I did.
Here?
Yeah, from the District Foundation. So I worked with two celebrating engineers who are but about a year también, so they hooked up with folks that are building a pilot to get permission. We had 2 days because they had to close the highway on the front. And so I had a bunch of chairs, and then we built outside of their community.
So they're gonna take everybody like here when they try to go back to or you're right.
Couple minutes and report out. And we'll just report out your headline. Leave it at that. Unless you want to say more. Some of that.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Okay, are we about ready to report out? Let's get started. We're ready. All right, table 1.
So I'm not.
And just read out your headline if you like, and then we can kind of go around on that.
So we had our three visions were CCCD prepares people to meet their goals and contribute to a healthy society. CCCD achieves 90% livable wage attainment within 6 months of program or course completion. And CCCD students transfer and reach work goals at higher rates than any other California community college.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Good one. Thank you.
We're good this way.
All right, in the back.
So we kind of align to that as well and ensure that this is an institution that creates opportunities for its human capital, both students and employees, who then will change the world around them, and ensure that students achieve their goals and are civically engaged and live fulfilling lives.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we kind of have two here. We have education you can taste, because we were looking at the headline thing. Education you can taste. CCC Culinary voted best of the nation. That's number one. The other one is Contra Costa College earns Aspen Prize recognition for excellence. And then we said, what would it look like? What would be different? And I think maybe we looked a little bit more campus. And so we said, not to say that it wouldn't encompass the district, we said morale is higher, physical health is stabilized, confidence is restored. Our students are flocking here. They already are, but students are flocking here and they want to be here with us. And lastly, it was just kind of what was the other question? What impact would it have? We each had different things about personally, but also said that it completes why we're here. It's our purpose as educators. And I think you might have had, Chef might have had another personal reason as to what it means.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
Chef is in rare form today.
I have another event going on.
Okay, so ours actually kind of ran from one into the next, into the next. We each grabbed different pieces of it. So I started with, the headline would be more full-time faculty are hired, achieving the 75% goal of classes taught by full-time instructors. We see an increase in student access and completion because of that. That led into the next piece of the vision, which is the district has one of the highest graduation and transfer rates in the state, which led into the next one, which was that CCC students are the most sought after graduates in the labor force. It was one thing and the next, it all kind of ran together. What would it look like if those goals were achieved? We'd have fewer part-time instructors in and out of the college. We would have a greater share of full-timers to share out the extra duties, like committees and evaluations. This would spread out the overall workload. We would see less exhaustion and the demoralization of the full-time instructors, which moved into that would improve our economic stability here within the college and establish a service leadership balance, which would increase enrollment, completion, and success. So 1, 2, and 3. How this would affect each of us personally in different ways, we all said it would increase our morale, it would increase our job satisfaction, and it would increase our fulfillment. Overall, for myself, it was we would have more reliable instructors, and we wouldn't be having this constant turnover where we're constantly recruiting and hiring. We'd have people leave 1 to 4 semesters later because they need a full-time job in order to make a living. And that would increase their success and fulfillment, which would increase our students' success and fulfillment, and everybody wins.
Okay, thank you. Wow, you've done that very nice. All right. Great, thanks,
I guess I'll start. So I don't know that we came to a common vision necessarily, but I wanted everybody to have a chance. My vision is ORCD has eliminated achievement gaps and has raised success levels for all students. What that would mean for our community is that it would be plagued by fewer issues linked to poverty. And how would that achieving the vision have an impact on me? It would mean that I had done something in my career and I had a part to play in this vision.
Headline I have is 4CD sees $400 million increase in funding based on student-centered funding formula implemented in 2021. It's a vision, right? FTE growth, increased graduation rates, transfer rates, CTE programs, impact personally to know that the work that we're doing is impactful.
All right. Thank you. And the final table.
So our visions were so big that we had a hard time putting them into words. So rather than articulating these kind of coherent visions that everyone else has, I'm just going to list off what we would put into our vision if and when we were able to write. So common themes were transforming communities, helping all students, having 100% goal attainment, and empowering students and improving economic vitality.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. That was very helpful. Thank you. I will say it again. Leave those sheets behind because that was good stuff. I don't want to lose it. All right. The final lap.
This is where it gets exciting, you guys.
Yeah. Strategic goals and directions. We had this conversation about 6 weeks ago. It's been quite different. Much has happened in Sacramento that is going to infuse itself in this conversation. So, strategic directions and goals. This is what success would look like. It's kind of what we're trying to get. So, the curveball. The state chancell's office just released last month new requirements regarding the alignment of local strategic goals to system goals. Many of you may have heard this. It's maybe new to some of you, so let me just kind of say it. What we're going to try to do today is take these statewide, system-wide goals and look at them with the context of this local environment and try to make them our own or just react to them. And to set that up, I want to first look at a very brief summary of environmental data for the county to give you the context within which we can have this conversation about the system-wide goals. That makes sense? I'm going to give you a very, very broad, quick summary of really an environmental scan report of the county. And then we'll switch over and start looking at this system-wide mandate. Okay? Okay, some environmental data. This is about as short as environmental scan I think as you can get. So we're gonna throw the takeaways at you, show you some data, and then kind of summarize. So essentially, we've got a county population that continues to grow steadily, has been for decades, and looks like it's going to continue, rather steady growth. A long period of economic growth. In fact, this is the second longest economic expansion since World War II. And we operate in a counter-cyclical market. It's one of the most counter-cyclical markets out there, where the economy doing well, our enrollment goes the other way. The most counter-cyclical market is beer sales. As you get depressed, you tend to consume. Okay. So we serve 3 distinctly different service areas. That's going to be part of the theme of this quick summary. High school enrollment should continue to be strong for 3 or 4 years. The weekend a little bit after that. Adult learners with some college are our biggest student population. That's a big sort of monolithic group, and we're going to try to break that out a little bit. And then first-gen and Hispanic students specifically are our fastest growing countywide. So those are kind of 6 broad themes, just to get it a little bit more. Please.
Are you going to share this PowerPoint?
I sure can. It's actually already posted on our strategic planning webpage, so I anticipate. So these are the 6. And I'm going to show some data to give it some added sort of tangibility. So here is our trend from 1978 of county growth. On average, we had 10,000 people a year. Imagine that. And it's been pretty steady. Important to note here that there have been a lot of economic ups and downs over this period, but population tends to be immune to them and just continues on this steady path, or at least our county's growth. No one likes to predict the future, but it does seem like that can continue at least for the near term, the next 5 years of our plan. Likewise, economic growth has been long and strong. So this is the unemployment rate, so down is a good direction. And we're at 2.8% unemployment. That's a ridiculously tight market, and that's a very hot economy. And the indicators coming out now are starting to suggest that that might start to reverse itself in the coming year or 18 months. What is this? This is our headcount trend at the district, annual headcount, since 1985 to 2016-17. I want to just make the point of this counter-cyclical relationship. Each one of those peaks are a recession, right? And so that period winding up to it is when unemployment is rising. When unemployment rises, our budgets in Sacramento go down, but our enrollment goes up. So the economy slows down, while at the same time our state funding begins to shrink. And then when the economy expands, there's an incentive for students to leave and join the workforce, so enrollment tends to drop. So this is tough challenge that we have when the budget goes in the wrong direction at the wrong time. So that's our reality. And again, we've got an economy that may be heading towards a twist. 3 service areas, 3 general broad regions that we serve, again, very distinct. It is clear from that demographic data, these are very distinct service areas, east, west, and central. And just very quickly, of the 3, this service area is the 3rd largest, home to roughly 250,000 people, and it's growing at a slower rate than the other 2. DVC is the big one, growing slightly slower than the average of the county, and then 2nd largest in East County, but the most rapid growing. So the housing sales are the fastest pace too. Again, just a quick snapshot. Here's the trend of the county, and here's kind of the distinct flavor of each of the regions. High school data. So what we have here is a projection of high school graduates from 15-16. This is all projected from that base year, given demographic trends and in-migration, out-migration trends for the county. And what do we see? Like we see growth, we're at, this is absolute count, so it's something over 12,000 high school grads in 15-16. They're projected to peak at roughly getting close to 13,700, around there, in 2023, 2024, and then the decline. Now we're still up above where we're starting in 15-16, but there is a decline expected at 2023, 2024, and that is in the duration of our next plan. That is what we can expect to come, or we should at least plan for, and it's not just us. So I tried to show percent growth here. If you look at the Bay Area and California overall, it's similar. We're actually in a slightly more favorable position in terms of our peak, but we're all kind of trending generally in the same direction up to 2023, 2024, and then pivoting down. We should expect that, or at least plan for it. Diversity, so there's no real good graph I could find that expresses it, but we have actually one of the most diverse counties in the country. Diversity is a difficult thing to measure and put numbers on, but there are a few heuristics that do that, and when you look at a few of them, they have us in the top 5 to 3% of most diverse counties in the country in terms of ethnicity and race. This is just a map of dot density, and each color responds to a different ethnicity and race. I got this out of the New York Times. This collage of colors is supposed to kind of convey the idea of diversity. Okay, so this is review what we just gave you, kind of that quick, rapid-fire format. I think we can expect a continued population growth over the next 5 years. I don't expect that trend to deviate too much. It's been steady for a while. Population. A recession, I think, is likely. I think it'd be surprising if in the next 5 years we didn't have an economic contraction. Challenges and opportunities will experience differently at each college. The enrollment consequences to changes in the economy do play out very differently for the different colleges. High school graduates look like they're going to peak, but then decline. Again, they're still up a little bit as they decline, but that trend line is going to be below the current point at some point. We expect continued growth in adult learners and first-gen students. I'm going to show you a slide on that, but that's in the data. And then the segue, state legislation is incentivizing completion and workforce outcomes. Are we comfortable with the sort of lay of the land here in the environment? That's the context. Now let's talk about what's happening in Sacramento. Into the state chancellor's office. Okay, so November 6th, this directive was sent out from the state chancellor. Let me just read the most important part here. So, statute, districts and colleges are required to establish the following, all districts and colleges. Local goals that are aligned with the system-wide goals in the vision for success, goals that are numerically measurable, and have a timeline for improvement. Are we familiar with the Vision for Success report? If you've read it, the goals in the report are numeric and they have a specific timeline. So this is in some ways redundant. They're very explicit. There are 6 goals in the report. 5 of them relate to colleges and districts. And then there are 4 of them for which we have data. Okay. So just to this is my kind of summary of what has happened in the last 10 years or so, or even less. If I look back, what was part of our conversation? What was going on in the state? We had a student success scorecard. We had an institutional effectiveness partnership initiative in Sacramento, a brand new division that had a line item in the budget. Technical assistance programs began to flourish. PRTs, I think you have a PRT here. That was part of that sort of paradigm. There was a lot of promotion of sharing of best practices to professional development, seeing some innovation with a little bit of funding there. That was the paradigm we were in. What we seem to be tipping in is now we've got a vision for success. Guided pathways are gaining momentum. And within that vision for success, they explicitly state guided pathways is the framework we'd like you to use to pursue this vision. Student equity and achievement programs, SEEP is a new acronym that we gotta learn. And integrated plans are gone, SEEP is in, and now funding formula that we're still getting our heads around. Okay. 5 state-guided goals for which the college and district was aligned. State Chancellor's Office has explicitly defined numeric targets for 4 of the goals. We're going to look at what those goals look like for this college and what would it take to be consistent with the goal as measured, as stated by the state system. The report came out in 2017, and it's a bit of a technical detail we've got to get down on. 2016-17 is the base year from which they gauge their goals, and their goals are mostly percentage growth. So that's the base year when the clock starts counting, and then the goal date, target date is 21-22. There is no penalty for not meeting the goals. As of now, there's no penalty and no requirement to meet them. This is something of a routine. The state has done this before. They ask us to establish goals, and there's no requirement to meet them. But they are asking us to do that, and we are going to try to do that. Okay. I'm going to show you some data now. Let me kind of explain what you're about to see by kind of explaining the graph format here. I'm going to show you 4 slides that show Contra Costa's performance against the goals. I'll show you what the goals are and show you where you've been historically and what it would take for you to meet the state's goal. Okay. So, everything to the left of this line will be historical actual data. And then I'll show you a dashed line that gives you the projected of what you would have to do to achieve the state goal, which has a target date of 21-22. It's just a straight linear projection. All right, first goal, exact language. Increase by 20% the number of California community college students, not Contra Costa College. California community college students annually who acquire associate degrees, credentials, and certificates or specific skill sets that prepare them for an in-demand job. We're going to ignore everything from or on because we can't get our head around that numerically. There's not really data there. But we do have good, strong, reliable data on degrees and certificates. So I'm going to show you a graph that sums our output in terms of degree and certificate.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is that head count or is that number of degrees?
It is head count. Very good. So there's also a lot of discussion in the state about alignment across different reports and different demands, and that alignment is not achieved. And one of the reasons is in some systems we're counting degree awards conferred, and in other we're counting head count. This is head count. And so if I look historically, We have the short term where we peaked at 635 in 2012-13, and then a little bit of correction to the mean, 521. That's the base year for the report. To get that 20% target, this is a straight line flight path. You don't have to follow that. But you'd want to be at 625 total by 21-22. Now, it turns out we actually have data for 2017-18, and get to 625, the good news is you're already there. You already exceeded the goal for 21-22, provided you don't drop below that. So if that was looking ominous for you, you should be breathing on this side. Okay, is that clear, everyone? Okay, so that's the completion goal, which is, again, AA and AS degrees, no ATDs, AAS degrees, and certificates. Okay, goal 2, increase by 35% the number of California community college students system-wide transferring annually to a UC or CSU. That's the specified definition, specific transfers to UC and CSU. Look historically, you've got a growth path here that has taken you up over the 10 years. You're up to 2016-17 to 354, and this is the straight line slope of what the goal would have to be by 21-22. Slope looks maybe about the same, so it doesn't look like it's that different. If we look at where you are at, so that's a goal, 21-22, 425 is the target there, and today you're a little bit lower. 27, you're at 346 in the current year. This is direct transfers to CSU and UCs. Okay, we good? All right, goal 3, 2 more to go. Increase the average number of units accumulated by students in the system earning an associate degree for approximately 87 to 79 total units. The reason behind that is that rationale there. So we want to get the average number. I look at all the degree recipients, AA and AS only, and I count the number of units they had at the time of their degree. We want to make sure that average is at 79 or below. Follow me? They're trying to get at this time of degree and then off pathway activity and minimize it. We look at this, a little bit more volatile trend here. Now, notice the scale too. We're talking 65 to 90. So it was 74, and then there was this kind of jerky rise to 88.4, and now at 87.7 is the base year. Again, a straight line, direct line to the target of 79 and 21-22 would look like that, and you're doing well on that one. So you're already at 83.2. Good. Any questions? One more. Okay, goal 4. Increase the percent of existing CTE students who report being employed in their field of study. From the most recent statewide average of 60% to an improvement rate of 69%. Okay, so this is a bit of a tough one to look at through a data lens. The previous slides were transactional data that we track and we submit to our MIS, or submit to the state system. This one comes from a survey that is a survey to the students. It used to be called the Completer Leaver Survey, and it surveys CTE students. And it's self-reported data, and one of the questions asks them, are you employed in your field of study or your program of study? So it's sample data. The sample sizes can be small, which means the number can bounce all over the place, and it's self-reported. So there's noise in here, but they are saying that we are to use this data point. They specify the survey as the data point. And I've only got 2 years of historical data, and it's not up to the current base year yet. This is going to be a kind of a bizarre looking graph compared to the others. We have 2014-15 data where it was 66% and then jumped up to 69%. The mandate is to stay above 69. So we won't even know, well, the baseline doesn't matter so much in this one, we're not calculating growth, but you're below it, now you're just barely above it. We'll continue to monitor it. Very volatile metric. This one will probably go up and down and up and down. That's the state of affairs in terms of what the metrics are and what the state is asking us to do. There is a 5th goal, and it's an important goal, and I'll just read it, Goal 5, reduce equity gaps across all of the above measures through faster improvements among traditional underrepresented student groups, with the goal of cutting the achievement gap by 40% within 5 years and fully closing the gap for good within 10. Now, putting aside the ambitious nature of that aspiration, we don't have any data on this yet, or even a definition. We're being told, look, February 15th, something might be coming out, but nothing to look at in terms of metrics, but there is going to be an equity mandate tied to this. How do we make this mandate our own is essentially the question. But let me pause. Are we following so far what's going on? As state director, we're trying to meet it.
I have one question. I'm just a student, so I might not know everything you guys know. But it seems like from the beginning, when you guys all talked about values, the things that you guys discussed in values aren't the things that are discussed in the end part. Like, there's no way to marry the things that you guys discussed in values with the numbers that you're putting up there now. Like, there's no discussion of the students that are returning. There's no discussion of all these other things that unite the campus to the community. So I just don't know how you bridge the gap from the beginning of this discussion to this part.
Yeah,
that's just a student.
A great point. No, that's a great point, actually. And that's the tension behind having something that's locally owned and meeting something that's been dictated from a system-wide perspective. The values are ours. In this room, we're talking about them. And the system is saying, you have to pursue these targets. So that tension comes up right away.
Can I just say, I think it's important to know that we still own our strategic planning process. It doesn't mean that we have to stop with strategic goals that are directed at us from the state chancellor's office, right? It means that we certainly have to integrate those into the work that we're doing, but we have every opportunity to create additional goals and strategic directions that are in alignment with our vision and mission, right? So this is a piece of it, it's not the entirety of it.
Thank you, yes. And this exercise will get at that very point. Oh, please.
The other thing is, where's the equity lens in these goals?
That's goal 5, and that's coming. So this is what they tell us, it's coming, and there's no data right now. They're just saying, look at all of the, all your underrepresented populations that you've identified in your equity plan, look at those above goals and slice and dice them along those ways. But we need a further definition to actually do that. So we're waiting for them to provide that. Okay?
Looking at the other goals.
Louder.
I would assume that in looking at the other goals, when you disaggregate by race and ethnicity and other special population that we're looking at in terms of equity indicators, we are wanting to reduce that achievement gap. And so it's not just goal 5, but it's embedding that equity lens across all of the goals and using the strategic values to be able to actually hit the targets. These are objectives. Strategies are ways to get to the objective, right? Is that how we're envisioning this?
Yes, and so you just nailed what they said right here. All previous indicators disaggregated for the student groups identified as the disproportionate impact. Now, the trick mathematically is those are levels, those are counts. You can't disaggregate counts. I need a percentage to get my hands around, and that's what we're expecting to begin to us in February. Once we do, we'll be okay. That was the setup to this breakout, this final breakout. Are we comfortable? We are trying to get to how do we make this our own. And I've got 3 questions on there, I think, or 4 questions. I tweaked it a little bit to make the language a little bit. That ask you to kind of reflect on the state goals for what we looked at and kind of think through what we would have to do here at CCC to kind of make this our own. What would we want to make sure we don't lose sight of. And then there's a final question that gets to Mojdeh's point here. In addition to this, what do we want to make sure we don't lose, and in fact call out that is something in the way of a goal for us, that is part of us, so that we can make sure that we're not missing anything that we consider fundamentally important to our mission and our students. Does that make sense? This is the toughest breakout homework time here, but are everyone comfortable? Any nagging questions? We'll give you 10 minutes on this one, and then we'll do a quick round robin with the tables. Sound good? Okay. If anything looks confusing, raise a hand, I'll try to help.
It's fake though.
Yeah, it's fake.
All right, 1 minute.
It's a gift, so eventually you're gonna get it. Frame by frame. Yay! You're a child. Yeah. I guess I'm walking.
Oh, for success.
All right. Hot mic here. Are we good? It's 3:51. We go now. We have just enough time to have a rich conversation if you like. We good? All right. So pick what you want to read, but I'd love to hear every table give me something on that last goal that what it wants to capture. What do we make sure we don't lose the addition to the state mandate? Beth, you're on.
Right?
I'm
Okay,
ready.
so we just have lifelong learning to make sure we add it to the strategic plan or keep it in the strategic.
Wonderful. Oh, wow. Want to say anything else about what you wrote? Or anything else about the other goals?
Oh, no, can you just ask that specific?
Okay. You have freedom to go farther and wider.
We didn't have time to have lots of conversations, but I would say. So we want to create maps that are clear and to maximize the benefits of the courses. That means meeting local degree, ADT, and transfer requirements. We want to institute some sort of, we call it a degree blitz initiative, where 30 units from completion in upper level majors courses, all instructors in a pathway to ensure that all students that are eligible apply for the ADT in those courses. We want to do an analysis of transcripts at the end of the first year and a half to make sure students are on track to meet that goal. Similar for transfer, except for with transfer, we want to have students, as soon as they declare a major, sign up for their TAP account, understand that they have to use assist.org to check their pathway map every semester.
And then we'd like to develop learning communities, like with the Vermont, to help support students through their personal statement, fund for workforce experiences like internships, and then do some transfer exploration trips. And then we'd like our transfer center to have lab hours to help students complete their transfer applications. Similar to the other one, have programs develop living wage markers for their degrees, and begin to have conversations with local industry to make sure that their curriculum is aligned to industry needs. And then beyond that, I think it's important to think about our special populations and our special community needs and develop non-credit pathways so that we meet the local needs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Captain, your inner planner there, making sure things continue to go and you check in, and that we're not forgetting the student's goal is the goal to go at, right? Please.
So we also ran out of a little bit of time at the end, but for the last one, it said organizational development around operational efficiency, employee training, technology systems, and communication. Employee experience should be prioritized. Happy employees equal successful students, improved outcomes, and healthy community.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. We down 2 to go.
We have 1 to go.
One to go?
Pass.
So
Okay.
the first one, we connect students earlier to counselors with time and knowledge to help students set their goals and stay on track.
Closer to you and closer.
And stay on track to achieve their goals, supported with other resources. Disaggregate data by AS, AA, certificate, by major, and by demographic, in order to target intervention. And target intervention efforts, is that what you're saying, on the largest and weakest suburbs, and then use these successful strategies for the ones that were successful. Close equity and achievement gaps and support student success by ensuring students are taking the right courses at the right time. Ensure wraparound services. And then in the interest of time, we'll skip to 5. Support students to achieve these goals with increased courses in multiple modes of delivery.
Okay.
We have 2 more.
I suggest build and leverage community partnerships to increase employment support services.
Wonderful, glad you got that one.
And for 5, I will reiterate what Phil said, and include employer partners and work-based learning opportunities within each degree certificate program.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. It's nice when some of the things actually make their way through all 3 conversations. That could have been one of them, but there were more. Okay, we got there. Thank you so much. This is extremely helpful to us in this process because we really need to kind of pull from you this information so that the plan reflects you. So again, thank you very much. We got out mostly on time. Just as a wrap up, this is the final forum for the listening conversations that we've had. We have 2 in the public, 3 with the colleges. We're also collecting information from a community survey, an employer survey, a survey of employees and staff, and a student survey. So we're getting a lot of feedback here. In addition to environmental scan, we did an industry study and a lot of other data, internal and external, to kind of also augment this. So at this point, we have a lot of information that we are going to now embark on a path of synthesizing and start producing drafts. So we've got a year, starting in January and through May, of writing. We will come up with 2 drafts prior to a final draft, that's our plan, and we will be sharing the second draft with the district-wide realm. We'll be posting it on our website, and we'll be sending out an email, send out a blast, and I'll be looking for your reaction. Did we talk about equity? Does this definition of equity get what you were trying to get at? And we'll look for your action and kind of then tweak from there on. Done? Any parting thoughts? Thank you very much.
So,